One of the biggest challenges with content creation is the script, the dialogue. What are you going to say? Well, a lot of content creators use a teleprompter, and this was something that I put off doing for a long time. And I tried to get by with just writing a script and then having it play on my iPad next to the camera lens. However, that was a little problematic. More often than not, I would find myself, like when I was editing the video, I could see my eyes going back and forth between the lens and the iPad reading the script. So then I resorted back to just notes. I would just keep a sheet of notes, just the highlights of what I was going to cover. However, I would find myself more often than not missing key points, all right? Because I was in the moment and I was a little distracted, and it wasn't until the editing process or even published the video that I realized I forgot to include one or two good points. So I finally buckled and got a teleprompter. Now, one of the big reasons it took me a really long time to settle on one is I frankly didn't like how a lot of teleprompters were designed. And one of the big issues I had is a lot of them had this weird mounting plate design they had to screw the camera onto. Now, most of my cameras, especially my video cameras, are going to be, they're probably gonna have a cage, but they're probably most likely gonna be on some sort of rail system like this. Well, SmallRig recently released a teleprompter that mounts to the rail system. So I was pretty stoked to get it and check it out. I've got it and I like it. Probably a little long overdue, but hey, I finally caught up. So this has been a really nice accessory, but in the first day of shooting with it, I've already run into a couple challenges. So let me share some of the hiccups that I've run into on day one. The first issue I had was this little rubber gasket that SmallRig included in the kit. Now what this is used for is you would start by sliding this over the lens, all right? And then you would put the teleprompter on, and then you would bring the thicker side back and attach it to the back of the teleprompter. And what this was for was to prevent light from leaking through the space between the lens and the teleprompter and coming through the glass, because if you have light leak coming through, it's going to be harder to read the text. You can see the problem right here. I am using a focus motor system, and if I was to use this gasket, it would cover the gear on the focus ring, which means I couldn't use the focus motor. Now, both my A cam and my B cam have Magic Fizz focusing system, so I can remotely control the focus and the focal length of my lenses. And that's very important as an independent creator. If I apply this, I can't manage focus. That's a problem. So the solution has been, well, kind of old school. A lot of the original teleprompters, they came with this cloth, this like little towel that you would just pull over the back of the teleprompter and cover part of the lens in the camera to prevent light from coming through. So I am simply doing the exact same thing. Something doesn't have to be pretty to work. This will do. Now, to be honest, the way I have the lighting set up right now in my studio, there's really not a lot of light that leaks through. But if I was to change things around, yeah, there's a pretty good chance I would see a ring of light leaking through in the teleprompter, making it hard to read the text. So this is the solution I have to go with for right now. It's a pretty small trade-off, but it is necessary in order to use the focus motor. The teleprompter came with this little remote control, and I tried to use it, and it doesn't really work for me. I guess it only really works with the SmallRig app, which is a bit problematic because I already have a pro teleprompter app that I like a lot, that's really effective, that I prefer to use. And I was able to connect it with the Bluetooth, but it just, how do I describe it? It acted really wonky. It just didn't do, I don't know what it was doing. I'd push the button and like I'd see this cursor jump around my iPad. So it was, well, it's pretty useless actually. However, I can remotely control the teleprompter app on my iPad with my iPhone. So I don't really need this. Next up is the attachment that holds your device, be it a phone or a tablet. Now I have the largest size iPad Pro, which I love, but unfortunately this, you'll see, just doesn't fit. It's also kind of flimsy plastic. I don't really trust it. Now, thankfully, I've already got a workaround, something I've been using for a long time when I was using my iPad as a teleprompter. This Ulanzi tablet mount is the perfect solution if you have a full-size iPad Pro. Now, I will leave a link in the description, but I've been using this for some time now when I was using the iPad as my teleprompter, and it's much better build quality. Like, it's all alloy metal, right? It's really solid, a lot more solid than the mount that came with the SmallRig Teleprompter. So what I can do, or what I am doing, is it has 1/4" screws on the bottom and the back side. It does have a little cold shoe mount, which is nice. Never used it, but it's good to know it's there. So what you can do is just screw it on like this. There. And it, will hold the iPad just fine. This has worked great. Now, the iPad is a little bit bigger than teleprompter glass, so I had to set some margins in the teleprompter app. I think I'm using 14% margins, which just brings in the text a little bit, and it does center very nicely in the screen. Now, I'm also setting the font to 84 with the camera about 6 feet away from me. Now, you don't want to have these too close, because even if you're looking right into the lens, if the camera is too close, you can still see your eyes going line to line to line. The farther back the camera is, the less obvious it will be that you're reading off a script. And of course, my advice will apply to most teleprompter apps out there. Now, I didn't spend a lot of time using the SmallRig app. I opened it up, I looked at it, I wasn't impressed. I already had the app that I paid for, so I went back to that. That has all my scripts, and now that I have it configured, it's working just fine. So I'm really happy to have a teleprompter. They're getting really, really affordable. It is actually really nice to be able to finally read a script. Now, it does take some practice. You shouldn't just type up a script and throw it up and start recording. You should take a moment just to read through it. I mean, at least once. I would recommend twice, honestly, just to get the feel for it. Plus, you might notice some errors or some edits that you could do last minute. Anyways, I got this right out of the box. It won't work very well with the iPad Pro. You need to get a third-party adapter mount. The Ulanzi works great. Again, I'll leave a link in the description, but I think this is going to be a game changer for my workflow. And I'm looking forward to actually spending a little more time planning and writing scripts for my content. So that's all I have for this video. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time.